That's good advice. Along the lines of this idea of the value of the business is what happens to business if something happens to the owner. So in your case, and then we'll also talk about it for those listening, how do you think about what happens to Augusta if something were to happen to you?
Yeah, so great question. I think when I saw this on the docket the other day, it was literally a question inside of the mastermind that we have daily for Augusta. They're like, "Hey, so what happens if you get hit by a bus?"
Okay. So they're asking too. Yeah,
it's very top of mind.
Yeah. So let's talk about it for you, and then talk about it for how do other people prepare.
Yeah. So the first thing is I only formalized this once we got investors, to be perfectly honest. And so I look at two different ways: personal and then business. And so on the personal side, making sure you have life insurance, making sure you have equity being held inside of a trust. Those are like some of the basics. So like the trust, making sure that your equity is held there so that if you were to get hit by a bus, you can distribute that equity correctly. And then like the life insurance, like having money immediately for your loved ones. Also making sure that you have asset protection in terms of like you have not been piercing the corporate veil. Because
that's yes.
My thought process is I'm assuming I get hit by a bus, but what happens if I run into something and someone else gets hurt and they come suing me? I've got to make sure that I have this really good division between church and state, i.e. my personal expenses and the business. So those are some of the things from a personal side. On the business side, I do the same, similarly, like I do a life insurance for the business now. So that way, in the event that I get hit by a bus, there's immediate liquidity for them to operate. And then having a game plan for them. And when I say them, I mean the leadership. And so for me, it was a matter of like, okay, if I get hit by a bus, very clear instructions of who takes over. Ultimately, like there needs to be a leader at the top of this organization. And immediately what happens? Like, yes, you get some life insurance money, but then like I need people moving. I need equity to be moving hands. How I did it personally, to answer your question, was like the person that steps in as my replacement, they get tranches of equity as they do certain things, one of which is setting up a board. And so for me, when I was like, who's that replacement for me? It's actually someone who's really good, has really good connections and is good at recruiting. Because it's likely, especially if you're, a 10 to 50 million in revenue, let's just say, you're going to probably need 2 to 3 people to replace you. And it's probably not going to be the person that you have as that person that replaces you in the moment. They're going to have to go get 3 people to change you out. And so who gets the equity? All that should be determined. There should be a really good plan in place, for my opinion. So like, actually, I have a picture of my Google Drive. There's a Google Drive document. There you go. Let's go. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay,
so it's a tiny little folder. It's on my Google Drive. It says, watch this if Mike, it says ... And it says it says, watch this if Mike. We might have to bleep out when I say that for YouTube. But it's literally a folder there that if they open it up, there's going to be for every department of like, here's the 12-month roadmap. Here's what I think you should be doing, so that they're not walking off a cliff. They have a roadmap, and obviously I expect them to change that and adapt to current conditions. But like, there shouldn't be this void. And I think for some owner operators, they actually almost feel pride in that if they didn't show up to work or they got hit by a bus, things would stop. And I don't think that's being a good steward of whether it be employees, your family, your customers, and having that plan in place and that clear chain of command is also really helpful to make sure there's not unrest with the team. Like if you get hit by a bus and they've joined because of you, there's a big chance a bunch of them leave if there's not a very good game plan and the leadership knows what to do next. And so personally, that's how I've tried to mitigate it as much as possible, knowing that it would be a huge loss for the company, but making sure that there's liquidity, there's equity, there's going to be board oversight, so no one person can undo what we've done. And then like the plan of action for each department has been helpful for me too.
If you're let's just say you're a single guy, you own a business, it's just you. What point do you think in your business you need to think about this kind of thing? And because there's so many things to do, like it's just too many things. But at what point would you even tell somebody? Because I think the answer is different if you're married.
I think as soon as you have a dependent, and I would say I classify a dependent as someone that also needs to provide for their family. And so if you're hiring a bunch of young guys, you're 2 or 3 of you're a bunch of young dudes, they can go get another job tomorrow. Okay, don't spend too much time on this. But if you're hiring people that have families, if you're hiring individuals that are moving across the country, or they are sacrificing to come work for you, and they believe in this long-term vision that you've cast, which we should all have, I think it is right for me to ensure that if I was to be hit by a bus, that they would be okay. And internally, like your personal family, okay, do you have a kid? Do you have a spouse? Like even like now it becomes pretty obvious along the personal side of like life insurance, division of church and state in terms of finances, and making sure that they're not going to get sued the minute you get hit by that bus. The trust, making sure that you have regulations, like the equity shouldn't go to your 3-year-old daughter the minute you get hit by a bus. And so these are the type of things that I think would be entry-level steps. And then as the organization grows, your liability and your responsibility grows, and the amount of people that are depending on you grows, and that level of complexity starts to grow with it, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a lot to add here. I would maybe just add a few points. If you have a partner, it helps. You still have to do all the same stuff, but you've got a partner who can really more easily bridge the gap. Sure. But then that partner, if you want the business to keep going in a meaningful way, probably needs to hire for their weakness. So if you were the CEO and they were head of ops, they're probably going to need to bring somebody in maybe that was like, let's say you were kind of the driving the sales and the growth and the push guy, and they're more the make it all run really well. They might need that counterpart. That's where the insurance policy becomes really valuable. It's very much what Mike's already said. So I think about that. If you're a partnership, you need a buy-sell agreement. That's the official document that describes exactly what happens. For insurance, a lot of times it's called key man insurance. And that's the business policy that will cover you. And I had key man insurance policies on people that weren't owners in the company. Just a few of them. So if you can use key man for non-owners as well. It's the other argument why I like building bigger businesses. Not everybody agrees, but if you are married and if you have a family, if it's a small little business, it's probably just going to get dissolved no matter what. It's just whatever the insurance policy is, that's really what's going to happen to your family's going to get. But the grieving period between the time something happens to you and the time they can act on selling your accounts, the window's too short. Those accounts are all going to just disperse. They're going to go find the business is completely worthless. And so unless the business is bigger and you have people that can continue it, the business has no value for most people. And so the only hope you have is if you have a partner, they keep it going, or if you get bigger and you have a leadership team and there's a plan in place like Mike described, then you could keep it going. And then the only other thing I think I'd add that maybe you didn't say that comes to mind for me is if you're not in the camp of selling the business, and I don't think most people are in the camp of selling their business, whether they think they are or they're not, they're probably not going to, you should generally plan, I think, for not selling your business. So as you have dependents, wife, husband, kids, whatever, this is the argument for why you periodically take money out of the business. Like so many people will go for so long, 15 years, all the money back in, and they say they're growing, but the business is getting bigger, but it's not really getting that much bigger. It's really a different problem. It's not really a growth problem. It's a problem of not being profitable enough. Or you stay in growth mode so long, push, and it is really growing, but we've talked about slow down to clean things up. If you never take any money off the table, you're also not you're not finding out if you actually have a good business. 2, you're not taking any money off the table to protect your family if something does happen. So this idea that you go 20 and 25 years or whatever the number is, and all the money's in the business, it can work out wonderfully. Maybe you do get a sell someday. Maybe one day the switch flips and you go from just existing to making crazy amounts of profit. Maybe. But if you are building something for the long term, you need to be taking money out of the company, and that money needs to be getting invested somewhere. And then that and the insurance policy protects the business. I'm sorry, the family, because there's just no guarantee that when you're gone, the whole business getting sold or getting pieced out, or the people you have in place continuing to run it well. If you're a smaller business, it's just, there's no guarantee. And so I think this is where you need a contingency plan and, a second plan, not just a plan of who's going to take it over. Those are my big thoughts.
It's actually one of the biggest reasons why the Copy and Paste Millionaire, it's not just about multiple locations. It's about having a definitive finish line where I start taking distributions from this segment of the business. And locations is, I found a really helpful way to be like, oh, I stop at this certain number of technicians and then I optimize it. I have net free cash flow. And then if I decide to go invest, I go start another location. And I have these segments that as I'm growing the business and investing into it, I know that behind me is profitable segments that I have to break off instead of just this ever flowing 20, 30 years. I've seen this over and over and they burn out. And I would say this also for all this whole conversation around what if you get hit by a bus. I see that whole lot less common than someone having a mental breakdown. And a lot of these same things apply.
Out.
Because now, if you burn out and you can't show up to work for a couple months, to your point, your accounts are now worthless. You're not selling your business when you're burnt out and having a mental collapse. And so I see that just as common as like, oh my goodness, someone passed away and now we've got to like do 911. It's the same when it comes to mental stuff. And for everyone that it might be like, that doesn't affect me. I always go back to this, like, I am just a bag of chemicals. And if there's something that goes on in your life and then you are impacted mentally, within a matter of a couple months, if you can't show up, a lot of the accounts aren't worth anything. And so just backing up your point, also not just being hit by a bus, but also just preparing for that as well.
And it may not be it may not be that you burned out in business. It could be that something devastating happened to somebody you care about in your own life and it just triggers something you didn't expect. Yep. And you just get to a I don't care phase. So it could happen in so many ways. Yeah, that is a good point because that's the more likely, frankly, that's the more likely outcome than something happening to a person. So it's a good way to frame it.
That was the biggest thing when I started getting prepared for like getting hit by a bus. I started putting things in place. Like, what happens if I go off the rails? Like, hey, I'm hoping I do everything possible, keep myself healthy and keep this bag of chemicals okay upstairs. But, if I got bonked on the head and start saying stupid stuff, like I don't want to unravel some of these things, And you start thinking in terms of that way, you start, I don't know. I feel like being a better steward of what you're responsible for.
Yeah.
If you've built a $1 million home service business, but you're struggling to get to the next level at $10 million in annual revenue, I've created a private community just for you. It's called Home Service Boardroom. What got you to $1 million is all the work, the hustle, the grind, figuring out your leads, your website. But what gets you from $1 million to $10 million is learning the skill of leadership, finding other great talent and managers to work for you. If that's of interest, go check out mikeandy.com/school or see the link in the description.